This is Six African Trade Talks. Six African Trade Talks is a media partner of Intra-Africa Trade Fair, an initiative of AfrXimbank in collaboration with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat and the African Union. Welcome to Six African Trade Talks. Today, our guest is Kumbirai Chimukupete, founder of Umoja Lands, which is now Emudumeni after a merger with Muganot Systems. Kumbirai, welcome to Six African Trade Talks. How are you?
I'm good, Chuck. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. Great to have you here. Before we start, we'd like to hear a word from our sponsors.
Okay.
Unlock your business potential. Are you fundable? How do you know? And where do you even start to check? Introducing the AFcFTA 24 Fundable Process, a game changer for African businesses ready to scale. This proven process helps you access your fundability, identify gaps, and position your business for growth and investment. Contact us on WhatsApp at +971 55 443 8056 to get the link and start your fundable process today. Don't miss this opportunity to unlock doors to growth and success for your business. Get fundable now. So Kumbirai, please describe your journey, how Muganot Systems was founded, and the vision that drives your company. But before we even get there, let's have a little bit of a background of who you are as a person and how you even ended up founding Umoja Lands.
Okay, thank you very much, Chad. So my journey starts in 2017. Right after my high school, I got the rare opportunity to work as a young student intern in one of the local banks here. So my first assignment was in research and development, where I had the privilege of working with a very amazing lady, Miss Winfred Goromonzi, whom I really give credit for inducting me into corporate life, which of course I was later on the dish for entrepreneurship. So to give perspective to the work I was entrusted with at such a young age, it was at a time when the Reserve Bank had just given a circular to banks to research and come up with position papers on the adoption of cryptocurrencies, decentralized finance, and a lot of these Web3 stuff. There had been a lot of impetus in neighboring South Africa where Pick n Pay was now accepting Bitcoin. And I think from the regulator's perspective, it was also an opportune time for Zimbabwe to jump in. Unfortunately, it was never then to be, as we learned later on. So I ran this project together with a colleague of mine who was then in corporate banking, Mr. Kobani Moyo, who's now currently serving as managing director at Kuva Cash, a blockchain-based remittance business that is moving substantial amounts of money between Zimbabwe and the diaspora. So I think for me, that's where I really then got interested in blockchain, the future of finance, the future of banking. And I think true to that, both myself and Kili have gone on to lead some of the fintech businesses in blockchain and here in Zimbabwe. So another project of interest was the system upgrade of Terminus T24, the core banking, which is a project that was chaired by my then superior, Mike Romonzi, as head of research and development. And fortunately, it was a two-person department, meaning that I had access to most of these meetings and project details, management. And that was my very first insight into boardrooms, documenting processes. And though I never understood it at the moment, I think it was those processes that really shaped what I was later on going to engage in, as you let learn during this podcast. So I then left Medbank after 2 years. I went to university where during the holidays, I would always come back and help out and get some few cents for my pocket money. And then, so right after I left, I went and started doing my internship at Financial Clearing Bureau, which is Zimbabwe's biggest credit bureau. And during the time at the bureau, I was also in customer service and then later on transitioned into IT support. Whilst at the bureau, that's where the idea to actually conceive Umoja Lands was born. And when I look at it, it was actually a build-up of all these experiences from the bank where I had an agribusiness under my portfolio, a millers association, and I had some experience moving around authority sought memorandums for credit. My understanding of credits was enhanced at the bank and at the bureau where I later on joined. At the bureau, we then realized that under a business as usual environment, smallholder farmers, who, by the way, constitute over 60% of the population, were not going to stand a chance. And we were both coming from, that is myself and my co-founder, from an understanding of financial services and low risk appetite that banks had when it came to dealing with farmers. So eventually we founded Umoja Lands as an alternative credit scoring and credit risk assessment platform that's used also satellite imagery and artificial intelligence to try and also see the potential return of the farm outside these metrics that the credit bureaus normally don't look at: climate variability, farm return on investment, and look into the farmers' returns, which all of these we believed could be used as collateral. We are in the data age, data is the new oil, and we believed it could be collateralized. So we ran with Umoja Lands for 3 good years, scaled it across 3 countries as a software as a service business until recently when we went through a merger with our then technical partners, Mogonat Systems, which is a premier software development house with vested interest across different sectors and key economic zones, including financial services, insurance, enterprise software. So really, Mogonat Systems, our ambitious goal is for Africa to speak its own digital transformation journey or story, with the belief that technology is one of the best tools to uplift people's lives in the shortest and most practical way possible. As you will see, we have seen this happen, M-Pesa in Kenya, EcoCash even here in Zimbabwe, in agriculture as well, clean energy as well, where we are still speaking of over 600 million people without access to clean energy. So technology is the enabler that will help improve the lives of our people. So in retrospect, this is about me and 2 businesses that I've been involved with to date.
Interesting. What a journey. So share with me, Mogonat Systems specializes in diverse software solutions. From mobile apps to enterprise solutions, how do you decide which innovations to prioritize for the African market? And when we say Africa, what do you mean? Which market? Is it the whole continent? Is it regional? What are we talking about here?
Okay, thanks a lot, Chad, for that question. So we are driven by 3 main things: people, purpose, and profits. So those are our main drivers: people, purpose, and profits. We go towards solutions that have the maximum impact to the majority of the people at the lowest cost. So generally, if you look at it, people tend to disassociate these things called profits and capital and commercial with service and purpose and impact. But for us at Mogonat, we believe those don't live in separate houses. So you realize that our framework for prioritizing innovations for the African market is deeply rooted in those 3 Ps. And this guiding principle really ensures that our approach to technology development is holistic, it's meaningful, and it's very sustainable, addressing the unique needs of the continent while driving long-term growth. So while we know that our vision is very ambitious, which is to make Africa technologically self-reliant, and to answer your question, by Africa, we mean the whole of Africa. Of course, it will be in phases where we start with our own home market, Zimbabwe, we go to Southern Africa, we penetrate East Africa, and so on. So put in simple terms, I love this book. I've recently read it, Eating the Big Fish by Adam Morgan. That's exactly what we are trying to do. We are trying to go head on with the challenger brands and have African alternatives to these. And I believe we have the capacity as Africans to achieve this, and this forms the basis on which the intercontinental thread rides on. So when you look at the people at the center of everything we do, we consider the people, because no one has a vested interest in the growth of the community than its own people. So your businesses, your community is an individuals whose lives and operations our innovation seek to improve. So those are the people that we are focusing. And for us, technology is not just an end, but a means to empower and enable. We understand that Africa is a continent with vast diversity, Chad, where economic, cultural, and infrastructural disparities present both challenges and opportunities. So this makes it essential to then design solutions that are inclusive, addressing not just immediate needs of urban enterprises, but also the systematic barriers faced by rural communities and undeserved populations. So I'll give you perspective. When you look at some of our social enterprises or social subsidiaries, we have a product called PayPal. So PayPal is a digital savings and internal or peer-to-peer lending platform set to just democratize rural community banks or your revolving funds, where people put together funds, save, lend to each other, manage contributions, withdrawals, send money, which is somewhat of a rural-based remittance. And so many more of these features that are immersive to the day-to-day lives of our people. In short, those are the things that they call Mukando. So we are just digitizing your Mukando. Then look at the work we are doing with Imdumani, providing information, digital satellite extension services, access to forgiving capital, which rural smallholder farmers normally don't have recourse to. Look at Sorghum World, which is our clean energy initiative, where we produce an LPG alternative through processing sweet sorghum or IPA, which is odorless, non-explosive, and cleaner. You still get that same blue flame. So this is rural industrialization, if you look at it. And what we are simply doing is making the rural citizen autonomous. It's happening, and we are part of the driving force that is making it happen. So we are people-centric. We believe that meaningful innovation starts with empathy and being proximate, understanding the lives and the realities, aspirations, constraints, and many more of those we aim to serve. So that's the people-facing approach. So when you look at purpose, we are also the driving force behind purposeful innovations. It goes beyond addressing a challenge or fulfilling a need. It's about creating lasting impact. That's what we believe in. For us, every innovation must answer a fundamental question, which is how will this solution change the way people live, work, thrive? So a key determinant of our design is deeply rooted in habit-changing development, meaning systems should change people's perspective of different things, your money, investments, financial literacy, accountability, record keeping, and many more. So purpose is also important, and it's also about accessibility and usability. We design solutions that are straightforward to adopt, implement, ensuring that technological advancement is not only limited to the barriers or complexities of cost. So this purpose also drives us to create technologies that are forward-looking or futuristic. I always joke around and say, we position ourselves under the tree so that when the apple finally falls, we are ready to catch it. That's how I normally explain it. So our solutions are always futuristic and forward-looking. So we embed adaptability. I also draw you to Smart 360, which is another solution of ours, an EduTech platform purposed to streamline online learning, alumni management, billing, invoicing, assignments, exams, and many more. We woke up to COVID 5 years ago, and we saw the rise of online schools and interaction, but very few were of African origin, which then means a lot of Africans were left out in this war wave of online learning. COVID was really a black swan moment, and now we have done Smart 360, which for a start, through the Ministry of Youth, we have already deployed to all the vocational training centers. One university is also using it, and we are hopefully going to roll out nationwide, if probably in surrounding countries. It should never happen again, Charles, that a habit-changing event or process like COVID happens and we are not prepared enough. So profits in our context is not merely financial gain. It is the measure of value created and sustained over time. So our approach to profit is informed by a nuanced understanding of African markets, where we recognize the cyclical and variable income patterns that characterize much of the continent's economy. This knowledge guides our business modeling. What differentiates us mostly is that understanding that global brands don't have, crafting business models that revolve around the income patterns and that revolves around the marginalized. So that makes us very unique, whether it's structuring pricing models that accommodate seasonal revenue or embedding low-cost scalability into solutions, ensure that our innovations thrive in a diverse economic environment. So generally, we are driven by people, purpose, and profit.
Amazing. Before we continue, we'd like to hear a word from our sponsors. So let's talk about, you've covered quite a lot, and it's interesting to see what you are working on and the passion that you have to solving problems on the continent. Let's touch a little bit on the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. What impact do you think the AFcFTA can have on fostering innovation in agriculture and fintech in Africa? In a few words.
Okay, so I think for me, the Africa Free Continental Trade Area has the potential to be a transformative force for innovation in sectors like agriculture and fintech across the continent. So we're already witnessing this through the establishment of the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System and the Regional Agriculture Commodities Exchange, which actually at the core will culminate in what I hope will be an agriculture free market where trade is mainly driven by the forces behind supply and demand, with little to no government intervention. And by creating a unified market for goods and services and investments, it addresses many systematic barriers that have historically limited growth and innovation in these industries. So your market expansion, cross-border collaboration, investments, when you're coming from this side of the world, capital raising is very brutal, it's very difficult, and kudos to the work you're doing, trying to connect investors to budding businesses like ours, supply chain optimization, youth entrepreneurial engagement, harmonization of financial systems. We talk of cross-border payments, as I mentioned, increased demand for credit access, blockchain and smart contracts to just have a transparent supply chain, and support for informal economies, which really form the backbone of most of our African economies. If you look at Zimbabwe, over 75% of our economy is formalized, and there have been calls for the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange to reflect that part of our informal economy. That's what the local boss should be looking at. But yeah, in a nutshell, I think that's what I can do. There is very much optimism that the free continental trade area will yield the results as deemed at its set.
Interesting. And to take it back a little bit to what you also mentioned earlier on, you said some of your technologies are helping, or you have created platforms centered around using technology to enable Kando, which is called in Shona. Some places call them round. In South Africa, it's called Stockville. So it's amazing to see young people coming up with technologies that can help, especially women, because most women are the ones that usually have been working on this. Let's talking about young people again. For young people who are passionate about using technology to make a difference, what advice would you give them about starting and scaling their ideas in Africa?
Okay, yeah, so that's a very interesting one. I think as a young person, I'm very passionate about this. So normally when I meet fellow entrepreneurs and they ask me, what is the source of your strength, leadership, inspiration, and values? I say, don't go too far from where you grew up and remind yourself of all those values you got from it. Some of them you don't even realize, but if you implement those practices into your everyday work, you'll see the magic happen. So for young people passionate about using technology to make a difference in Africa, the journey of starting and scaling the ideas can be as rewarding as it can also be challenging. So maybe as just nuggets of advice, solve real problems. Start with a clear understanding of the issues that people face in your community, be proximate with the problem, just have that connection with the problem that you're trying to solve. Then you'll see everything will fall into place. Build with sustainability in mind. Ensure your ideas are not just innovative, but also sustainable. Create solutions that conceive in local realities like limited internet, infrastructural challenges, and varying literacy levels of the people that we normally So if you look at it, over 65% of the population right here in Zimbabwe is rural-based, and which means that already that's an existential challenge where you also need to impart digital literacy skills to these people before you just dump technology on them. Then capital raising. You also need to know when and if you really need to raise capital. We are slowly noticing a trend where we try to build businesses the Silicon Valley way or the European way or the Western way. Most of these things actually, from our experience, might not necessarily work in Africa. Access to finance is one of the biggest hurdles. It can be so brutal. It can also be distracting. Focus on the customer, build the business using customer dollars, And remember, capital consolidates. That's its role. Capital is simply there to consolidate. So seek capital when and as it when you need to seek the capital. So allow yourself to be led as well. I think that's one of the key lessons that I always love to share, saying we are also noticing a trend where people are ditching formal employment or formal education for entrepreneurship. It's going to be harder if you really then look at it. You need to have mentors. You need to be in a work environment to just build the basic skill, the thinnest of skills that you need to navigate the business world. Then the last one will be resilient and patient. Starting and scaling a tech business in Africa requires resilience. You will face challenges and infrastructure gaps, regulatory challenges, market volatilities, like here in Zimbabwe, the exchange rate, which has been stable for quite a while now, kudos to these measures, but it's a challenge. Then invest in good relationship and friendships. So there'll be times when you fall and fail, and definitely you will. So these sleepless nights when you're questioning your decisions and whether the path you took was right, you need incredible friends and support base. This will divide your sorrows and double your joys and keep you in check and balanced in times where you need it most. So entrepreneurship will give you the dual feeling of being totally fulfilled and totally used up at the same time, which is what I personally desire to do before I die. To be totally used up, having every day, lived every day of my life as best as I could, focusing on things so big I likely won't be even to solve them in my lifetime, and committing to people and places, and believing not just in momentary happiness, but a life of service that leads to a deep and abiding sense of meaning and joy. So I think those would be my key advice to somebody young who's also trying to jump into this entrepreneurial thing.
Amazing. Thank you very much for sharing. Emma Dumeni has been making waves in the agri-tech and agri-fintech space. Share with us what this is all about and one impact that you can share that you have had on smallholder farmers.
Okay, thank you. So Mdumeni is a flagship platform in agri-fintech space. Our goal is to de-risk lending to rural smallholder farmers. A lot of them underbanked. They do not have the collateral. They have limited information. Credit bureaus and banks don't even look at them because they cannot provide enough information to satisfy a healthier scoring. So when they go to the bank, their case is dead. No one will touch them. So ours really has been to revolutionize this space because we believe that there are lots of data sets that are not being looked at, or that traditional bureaus and traditional banks normally don't look at. So productivity trends, you can actually collateralize how good someone is or collateralize experience. These farmers are already organized in groups, harness the power of the group to push social collateral or trust as collateral. You also look at things like your productivity of the farm. The farm is an asset. There are things to do with farm ownership, which are very prevalent in Africa. But as long as the person has the right to till the land, we also have the duty to assess whether that particular land can produce and give off an impressive return. So these B2B, where we focus on the banks and making a case to the bank that a farmer is too lendable based on their productivity and to their societal standing, which then when you look at it, which is where we are unique, the Mukando is revolutionizing this digital banking. It's informalized. But when you look at it, that's the data DNA that we are then creating to say, look, these people are already participating in a somewhat of a financial ecosystem. And this particular person is known for these payment trends. They pay late or they pay early. They are good at this, they're good at that. So that provides then an insight into data that the banks and formal financial institutions normally don't have recourse to. So you look at that and just then design models, predictive models or learning models that then can predict the potential of somebody defaulting based on all those metrics that I've mentioned. You embed satellite data for your climate risk assessment, where you look at against the natural farming region of that area, what is the probability that this land is going to produce and give off an impressive return? So based on that satellite data, you can also make a case to the bank that if you really did extend capital to this person, they're likely going to have this much of return. And if they produce enough, then they can sell better. If they sell better, they'll have enough surplus in cash to pay back their loan. We have to date registered 21,000 farmers on our platform, onboarded about 450 village extension workers who work as our data capturers and data validators. And we have added 45% more in the pockets of the farmers that we work with through a partnership with microfinanciers such as Bell Rural Microfinance. You look at Panamax, you look at Fed Mutual, which we have an ongoing conversation with around financing farmers, and one other bank, AFC, that we are also engaging. So this is a very scalable model. When you look at it, farmers will always need financing. The world will always need to eat. Agri-tech, food systems will never go out of the market because we are looking at it and saying we are always going to have to eat. So that's why you see, even for the past 30, 40 years, food insecurity has been topical, and it's still topical, and it will remain topical, which simply tells you that the work that we are doing is very important.
Thank you very much. Interesting. Any book or podcast you'd like to share?
Yeah, sure. Like I mentioned before, I've been reading Eating the Big Fish by Adam Morgan. And it's one of the books that I really recommend for anyone who has an vision as ourselves here at Mugonat. So this book simply focuses on how challenger brands can compete against market leaders by being bold, innovative, audacious, and resourceful. So one particular quote that I love, challenger brands think like insurgents, not incumbents. So this resonates well with what we are trying to do here and what I believe every other startup is trying to do around the world. Eating the big shit. So here, guys, is to developing sharp teeth and eating these big fish. I also love military strategy, even the movies that I watch are all military movies. So The Art of War, I believe most entrepreneurs have read this Art of War by Sun Tzu, which is a timeless classic, by the way. I've loved reading The Art of War. Very interesting nuggets there. Another one could be Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, Richard Ramel's. I love the book as well. Dissects what a winning strategy and why many fail by mistaking goals for strategy. So it's another one. Then On War by Carl von Clausewitz, another military strategy book, which simply explores war strategy, leadership, and adaptability. So podcast-wise, I listen religiously to the Six Africa Trade Talks. I think a lot of amazing characters have been there. Edward Gallant, Mr. Majuro, Zimtred, Adam Molai, some of the people that we look up to. I also listen to the Diaries of a CEO, another informative one. So yeah, generally, it's all about enhancing your knowledge and trying to develop yourself better through reading and listening to the experience of others. But yeah, I think that's what I can say.
To support our show, please leave a review and share this episode. You can also connect with us on social media using the handles in our show notes, or visit our website, scixpodcast.africa. See you next time.